The Necromancer of Pricene contains adult content and may not be suitable for children. Parental guidance is suggested. In the world of Turinlay rests an enormous island called Pricene. The nation of Pricene is governed by a king and council, though the real power rests in the hands of 10 cursed immortals, powerful supernatural figures who serve only their self-interests. The land is plagued with black-blooded monsters, corrupt political leaders, and bloodthirsty bandits. And the one man who is willing to stand up to them all just so happens to be an unholy abomination, a summoner of the undead, the Necromancer of Pricene.
Chapter 2. Brown Eyes. The Spike Tree Highway stretched from east to west, the only road to cut through the entire Herrinwich mountain range. It was wide enough for 2 wagons to pass side by side, which was an impressive feat considering the thick forest and steep terrain it carved through. I walked with Anya Esch on my left and my best friend Frank Mullentide on my right. Anya's prediction that the forest would be dark soon turned out to be true. The sun sank behind the makeshift horizon of jagged treetops, casting the forest in shadows. While the rest of Pricene would enjoy a bright summer evening, dusk always came early in the Herrinwich Forest. My 2 traveling companions couldn't have been more different. Where Frank was a little taller than me, around 6 feet, Anya was much smaller, somewhere around 5'3" or 5'4". While Frank lumbered along with the hood of his brown cloak pulled over his head and an ashen mask covering everything but his eyes, Anya walked with a light, graceful step, her cloak hanging open to reveal 2 black-hilted daggers in leather holsters. Seeing daggers worn near the ribs instead of the belt was strange, but Anya was strange, so I guess it makes sense. As for conversation, Frank only grumbled the occasional grunt, while Anya rambled on about the town of Willow's Bend, gossip she'd heard from drunk patrons of the Rusted Saw, and rumors of scandals involving Big George, the proprietor of the local lumber mill. Not for lack of trying, I had barely managed 2 full sentences since I'd let Anya join, something she seemed to notice too, because she abruptly cut off her story about Big George's alleged mistress and turned her attention to me.
So, you're definitely new to Willow's Bend. What brings you here?
I'm just passing through.
Just passing through? And following a squad of advents as you go?
It's not like that.
So what is it like?
None of your business.
Did you know that the advents got horses from Willow's Bend?
What? No, I didn't.
Yeah, that's why they're so far ahead of us.
The constable gave them horses?
They paid him for the horses, but Arun said he'd give him the money back if they arrested the bandits or brought the horses back unharmed.
Damn.
Why do you want to follow him so bad?
I don't.
You clearly do. Are you trying to join him?
Fuck no.
Are you trying to rob him?
No.
Then why?
Would you just drop it? By the stars.
Okay, message received. So, where you from?
A town called Ekaden.
Never heard of it.
Yeah, not many have. It's a small mining town in the Raketail Mountain.
Really? You are quite a ways from home.
Yeah, I am.
Do you always just make Frank stay in the stables? 'Cause he's kind of rank.
I didn't answer that question, but she wasn't wrong. He was malodorous at best and did need a bath. The next time Frank and I were alone, we'd need to find a river or lake to dunk him in. I tucked the task away in the back of my mind. Then, without warning, Anya looped her arm through mine and drew close. The gesture was bizarre considering we had just met. As she leaned in, I noticed her eyes, dark brown. A rarity in Pricene, where most had blue, green, or gray eyes. She saw me looking and gave a sly grin.
I've never been to a mining town in the Raketail Mountains. What's it like?
It was nice. The winters get cold in the mountains, but the sun almost always shines. When I say it was a small town, I mean very small. There were about 30 families in all, and the nearest mining town to us was a little over 40 miles away.
Oh, sounds peaceful.
It was.
What did you mine?
Well, I called it a mining town, but we didn't have to mine that often. Frank's father owned the mine. It was a family business, and his grandfather had been very lucky to discover a large quantity of tiger's eye gemstones. Are you familiar with the gem?
Yeah, they're lovely, but rare from what I understand.
Very rare. And they can be difficult to work with. Merchants rarely visited Ecodin, so once a month we would send one of our traders out to sell a gem or two and come back with supplies for the town. We had a rotation of 12 traders that would journey out, my father being one.
Is that what you are? A gem trader?
No. I was supposed to be, but not anymore.
So, what are you now?
Just a traveler.
You don't seem like just a traveler.
And what do I seem like?
I haven't figured you out yet, but I will.
Oh, I can't wait.
Shh! Do you hear that?
Hear what?
Up ahead, around that bend there. Horses stamping feet.
I didn't hear anything.
You gotta be quiet and listen for it. You'll hear 'em up there.
I'm gonna get closer and check it out.
There's a tree down in the woods at the bend. We could get off the road and sneak up to see what's happening.
That sounds like a good idea. Frank, you stay back here. I'm gonna look ahead. I'll be right back. The forest floor, thick with pine needles, muffled my steps as I crept closer to the crime scene. I knelt behind a fallen tree, its trunk already soft with decay. A perfect spot to watch the advents without drawing any attention. 4 horses clustered near the shattered remains of a merchant wagon. The advents had dismounted and were inspecting the wreckage and the nearby tree line. I was surprised we'd found them so quickly. After Anya mentioned they'd been given horses, I'd expected them to put leagues between us. Luck had finally shown me some favor. Finch, the archer, called out to the others, saying something I could not understand. They all paused and moved toward her as she pointed to something on the ground just beyond a vine-covered bush. From where I hid, I couldn't see what had piqued their interest. I turned to ask Anya if she had a better view, but she was gone. I glanced back toward the road. Frank stood precisely where I'd told him to, but there was no Anya. Panic tightened in my chest. I reached for my coin pouch and found only the severed leather strap dangling inside my coat. Anya was gone. My money was gone. And I was the fool. The little sneak had stolen the money right out of my cloak without me feeling a damned thing. It must have been when she looped her arm through mine and was batting those big brown eyes, that dirty, no-good, lying demon of a woman. A fresh wave of panic surged through me. I quickly checked the hidden pocket in my cloak. Thank the widow the bag of seeds was still there. Anya must not have noticed them when she was pilfering my coin. I hurried back to Frank, hoping he'd seen where she had disappeared to, but he was no help. Instead of paying attention, he'd been staring at a line of ants marching around his foot. Then the thought occurred to me, what if she was working with the Advents? I hadn't seen her with them before, but that doesn't mean she wasn't part of their crew. She was a sneaky little shit after all. I dragged Frank back to my hiding spot behind the fallen tree. If she were with the Advents, she'd likely make her way to them. I waited a short while, stewing in my anger, furious at Anya for stealing my money and at myself for being so gullible. But she never appeared to the Advents, so maybe she wasn't working with them after all. Either way, I would have to track her down once I returned to Willow's Bend. The Advents had finished their investigation and started speaking loudly enough for me to hear.
Cadamus, we must give them a proper burial before anything else.
Aurora, you know we can't do that.
He's right, Aurora. I've picked up the trail for the bandits, but it's old. We need to track them as quickly as possible.
We can come back for the bodies and give them a proper burial once we deal with the bandits.
It's inhumane. Those bodies were ravaged.
And we will bring them justice.
They're already dead, Aurora. It's not like they'll mind waiting another day.
Finch, you're a monster.
Seriously, Aurora, what's the big deal?
The big deal is that they were dumped into a shallow grave.
They're mostly buried.
Clyde, someone tossed a little dirt on them. It would take one hungry wolf to drag them out of there. And how would you like it if a wolf was dragging your body around, munching on it as they go?
Aurora, you're so dramatic.
You mean empathetic? You should try it sometime,
Okay,
Finch.
everyone take a moment and relax.
I'm as cool as the Herrinwich Peak, Cade.
Aurora, I know you want to bury these bodies and give them their last rites. But if we do that, we will lose what's left of daylight. And if we have to come back tomorrow, Finch might lose the bandits' trail.
But what about the wolves and coyotes?
I understand. But wouldn't you rather find these bandits and take care of them so no one else has to suffer the fate of these merchants?
Yes, of course I do.
Then let's focus on that. Let's do what we can to protect the living.
Aurora, would it make you feel better if I put a couple of these wagon boards on the grave?
Yeah, Clyde, that's a great idea.
Okay, just for now.
Just for now.
And we will come back tomorrow and bury the bodies the right way?
You have my word. Bandits, then bodies.
Would you three hurry up? We are losing daylight, and this trail isn't going to be easy to track.
Come on, Aurora. The corpses won't mind. They're already dead. What's the worst that could happen?
I watched as the Advents disappeared into the forest one by one. I checked their path to see if it would be easy to follow. I wasn't much of a tracker, but Clyde's heavy armor had left a wake of destruction. It'd be easy to follow him, at least. I turned back to the scene of the ambush. The wagon was in shambles. Thoughts raced through my mind, distracting me from my recent misfortunes. Why would the bandits do that to the wagon? Were they that deranged? Couldn't they have used some of the wagon's parts for their own supplies? I hadn't crossed paths with many bandits in my travels, but I knew enough to understand they were usually opportunists or disgraced soldiers. Brutish, yes, but not needlessly destructive. Slaughter the merchants, steal their goods, and burn what was left. That was typical, but this seemed different. I moved to the shallow grave that had unsettled Aurora so much, and my opinion of the bandits shifted quickly. I lifted the board Clyde had placed over the bodies and brushed away some of the dirt from the top corpse. The brutality was staggering. The people who did this weren't just bandits. They were monsters. I hoped the Advents found them easily and dealt with them quickly. Whatever horrific fate awaited these brutes, they deserved it. Upon closer inspection, I saw Aurora's concerns were justified. An animal had already started digging at the grave, likely the night before. It hadn't managed to reach its meal before something scared it off, but it would be back. The feast was too tempting. I whispered a few words, hoping their souls could find peace, then grabbed Frank and began after the Advents.
The Necromancer of Pricene will return after these messages. Hey everyone, if you're enjoying what you're hearing but would prefer to continue listening without ads, we have an option for that. All of our Patreon subscribers get ad-free listening to every show in the Creative Typo Network. If you're interested in becoming a patron and supporting the show and the cast, we invite you to check out our website at www.creativetypo.com, and the link to our Patreon is right there on the front page. All right, back to the show.
Frank and I trudged through the woods, following the path left by Clyde, the heavily armored giant. I listened intently to the forest around me, hoping to hear the big man or the other advents before we got too close. The last thing I wanted was to stumble right into them. That might be a little difficult to explain. We moved slowly, avoiding anything on the forest floor that might make a sound. Frank wasn't usually mindful of where he stepped, but in situations like this, he picked up on my need for stealth. At times, he could move as quietly as a mouse. Well, maybe not a mouse, more like a large badger, but you get the idea. After about 25 minutes, we heard the Advent's voices. I clung to the shadows, edging closer until we were within earshot, and then I found a place for us to hide. The bandits were holed up in a cave, not the cool, dramatic sort you hear about in fairy tales where dragons or treasure might be hidden. No, this was a narrow cave that sloped sharply into the earth with a small angled entrance. The Advents stood outside the cave, weapons readied. The bandits stood guarding the mouth of the cave, weapons still sheathed, but the tension thickened the air. Except for Clyde, who in his clunky armor would have difficulty squeezing through the entrance, the group could have easily forced their way into the hideout. Voices began to rise as the conversation escalated.
I'm telling you, sir, we didn't kill those merchants. You really expect us to believe that you simply found them like that? I don't give two shits what you believe. We didn't kill them. We haven't killed anyone. Then what did? How in the Underrealm should I know? And why would whoever did kill them leave all the merchant wares for you to loot? Maybe it's a creature instead of a person. Have you considered that? Maybe it doesn't care about possessions. Just food. A creature, you say? Yes. Did you see what it did to those people? Other humans, bandits or not, would not, could not be that terrible to others. It's grotesque. A bandit with scruples. Fuck you! We're survivors, not bandits! And the thing that did that was a monster! If there was a beast out here hunting people, why hasn't it eaten you and your men? Probably because we're armed and well hidden. So a large creature, capable of killing a group of traveling merchants, but smart enough to avoid a well-armed group of survivors, is lurking within the forest attacking random travelers for personal pleasure. You have the right of it. You must take me for a fool. I'm arresting you with all the power invested in me by Constable Arun of Willow's Bend. You've got to be kidding me! I kid you not. Now come out of there before Finch decides to send an arrow in.
Well, shit. Did you hear that? Of course you heard that. Everyone from here to Willow's Bend heard it. The bandits were right. Something big and nasty was roaming these woods. I grabbed Frank and ducked down into our nook just as the Advents drew their weapons. They exchanged a few tense words with the bandits, asking what kind of creature could make such a noise. The bandits, of course, had no answers, but they did offer the Advents shelter, an offer that was swiftly declined. Moments later, I heard the creature charge into the clearing. Ever one to give in to the call of curiosity, I risked a glance. The thing was enormous, twice the size of a black bear, with thick black fur and a jaw that unhinged far too wide. Lovely. It charged on all fours like a bear, but as the Advent spread out in a half circle, the monstrosity rose up to a towering height of over 10 feet. Finch loosed an arrow as Clyde charged forward. The Giganta bear lifted its shoulder, deflecting the arrow, and then swung its massive arm down to grab Clyde. With the ease of a giant, the creature lifted him into the air and hurled him across the clearing. Clyde hit the ground hard and rolled. That was all the motivation I needed to get my ass moving. I told Frank to stay put, then darted back into the woods, retracing our path. The 25-minute trip to get here quickly shrank to 15 as I sprinted to the destroyed merchant wagon. Ignoring the scattered wreckage, I made straight for the shallow grave. Using my hands, I clawed a corpse free and dragged it up onto the ground beside me. I shoved my hand into the hidden pocket of my cloak and pulled out the bag of seeds. The life seeds. The bag was secured with twine. I quickly untied the knot and then extracted the first seed. The man's mouth hung open as if dislocated in the struggle with the bandits or possibly the creature. Grimacing, I shoved the seed down his throat, pushing it in as far as I could reach. Then I spoke the words. Severed soul of the fallen, I summon thee. From the domain of death, return to me. With the seed of life from the tree of Rowan, I bind you once more to flesh and bone. Rise and obey. Satisfied the ritual is complete, I turned away from the corpse and began digging for the next body. Shallow as the grave was, it was still a lot of work. It might be best if you jump back over to the Advents and the Bandits to see how they're handling things.
Finch, move back to the tree line and use your barbed arrows. Aurora, go check on Clyde. You, bandit leader.
My name is Guvval.
Whatever. Get your men out here and surround this thing.
What? No! Deal with it yourself!
If you help me defeat this, I will give you a full pardon and allow you to keep the stolen goods.
Are you allowed to do that?
Yes! Now get out here!
Okay. We're coming. You heard the man! Surround the beast!
Clyde is fine. He's just a little banged up. I'm just going to give him a little...
Straight from the Underrealm! What was that?
It was a wake stick. You were knocked out, and I had to wake you up.
Why does it smell so bad?
That's how it works.
Clyde, could you give us a hand?
Coming.
Guvval, organize your men. By the gods, man, they're dropping like flies.
I've told you! We aren't killers! We are survivors!
You're about to be dead if they don't stop charging in like idiots.
Okay, I'm back. Oh, it doesn't look like the bandits are doing well. I crashed back into the nook where I'd left Frank, only to find him standing tall watching the fight. I yanked him back down and told him to stay put. Against the monstrosity, the bandit party was about as effective as a child fighting Clyde, but they weren't entirely useless. They served as a good distraction for the beast, allowing the Advents to make more strategic attacks. The creature was now riddled with wounds, oozing black ichor, its movement noticeably slowing. From my hiding spot, I watched as the Advents chipped away at the grisly fiend. There was a fluidity to their movements, a deadly dance. Cadamus struck out with his sword while Finch peppered the creature with arrows. Clyde, with his shield up, spun his warhammer in large, sweeping arcs. Even the bandits played a role in that dance of death. Mostly as cannon fodder, but they were doing their best. Cadamus scored a vicious blow, tearing a gory hole in the beast's chest. Black ichor gushed from the wound, and the creature reeled back in pain before fleeing toward the bandit cave. It leaped forward with astonishing speed, clearing the entrance and landing on the rise above. 3 of the Advents regrouped to catch their breath, while Aurora checked on the bodies of the fallen. Only 2 of the bandits, well, survivalists, remained. Guvval, nursing a bite to his thigh, limped with one of his lackeys toward their fallen comrades. Frank let out a grunt, and I turned to see him standing again. The stupid man never listens. I was about to give him a quiet but firm tongue lashing when I saw his eyes fixed on something at the far end of the clearing. The monster was charging back at full speed, and by the children of Morn, that creature was fast. Frank wasn't the only one to notice the monster's return. Finch loosed 2 arrows as she backed toward the far side of the clearing. The first arrow deflected off the creature's hide, but the second struck true, embedding itself in its neck. The beast didn't even slow. It launched into the air just as it reached the top of the cave, and with a sickening crush, it landed squarely on the nameless bandit, crushing him under its massive weight. Snarling, it turned its head, searching for its next target, and found Aurora backing away at the edge of the clearing. She drew her 2 daggers, lifting them in a defensive stance and bracing herself as the creature charged. Cadamus and Clyde sprinted toward the alchemist, but they were too far away. The monster covered the distance in 4 massive strides, then leaped toward Aurora, only to be intercepted by 2 unholy abominations. My undead merchants had finally arrived. Hi there. My name is Charts. I have the ability to reanimate the dead, and I'm on a quest to kill the most powerful man in Pricene.
Charts is voiced by Josh Allen. Anya Esh is voiced by Blythe Renee. Aurora Kaja is voiced by Elizabeth Phillips. Cadamus Sentler is voiced by Dan Stab. Finch is voiced by Taylor Shea. Clyde is voiced by Troy Cram. Guvval, the bandit leader, is voiced by Meng Vang. Audio engineering by Adam Culbertson and Richard Collins. Editing by Tisha Zang. Music provided in part by Elizabeth Blakely and written by Nico Rodriguez. The Necromancer of Pricene is a Creative Typo Entertainment production. For more information about this show, our cast, or other shows under Creative Typo, please check out our website at www.creativetypo.com. And thank you for listening. A very special thank you to our executive producers from Patreon, Nick Mead and Patrick T. Arseneault.